All right, let's do this. Life of Chuck. You know when you see something just happening in front of you and you're like, hmm, these guys are getting pretty exciting. Or they're getting very ambitious. They're getting very excited. They're getting very different-y about this. Life of Chuck is one of those trailers that I've been kind of hearing about, seeing, and just popping up here and there. And the moment you know that it's Tom Hiddleston in there, you knew there was gonna be eyes kind of like zoning in on that. But what got me is that apparently Stephen King is involved. Now I don't know if that means that he had a original book that became the movie or if he helped write for this movie. But regardless, the life of Chuck is an experience. That's it. That's it. It's something that kind of just puts you in the shoes of not a person, but situations, call them, or environments and places, sets. And when you're there, you're kind of forced to kind of experience what is happening around you. And through that surroundings, you get to get an idea of what a Chuck could chuck if a woodchuck would. And that's where things get interesting. Because yes, you go Life of Chuck, and we go, okay, let's start from the beginning. And like any cliched Marvel movie, or however, before it became super cliched, I think I'm thinking about Deadpool. We start from the ending. And that's cool, right? Because we like when people go creative. You can go creative with messing up the order of timeline and all that. But the way they did this setup was very tasteful. Normally, acts 1, 2, 3. In this one, we went backwards, 3, 2, 1. And you start to get a sense of, again, what this life is. Because we're not just focusing on the man named Chuck. Even though you may see all around you these signs, these symbols, these thank you letters, these advertisements of thankfulness to this Chuck character, which is really the brightness of how they wrote this chronologically. Because if you start the film with this grander than life story, right? This kind of emotion, but you don't know what it means. You don't know what's going on, what's everything means. And it brings a sense of mortality. And that's why I think it's so important that Stephen King is part of this, because it does show like how good he or his people are at writing these self-provoking moments in that movie theater when you're like, whoa, what's going on? What is this happening? Who is this guy? It builds up to a point that your mind almost exclaims danger. Like your natural reaction to life itself is to fear. And that has to be by design. So just incredible how just by through visual representation and writing and just environmentalism, you get a bigger story, like a huge picture. And once you start piecing it all together, which is why it's so brilliant that it's told backwards, you start to see how everything falls in line, and you start to understand, and you really start to get to the root of everything, why this means so much. You realize that by going backwards, there is so much knowledge, information, experiences, lives that were felt through this moment, through this person, through this Chuck. So for 39 years of service, thanks, Chuck. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you write a provocative, thought-fulfilling moment in time. Stephen King, done it again. The actors pulled him through. We talked about Hiddleston, Mr. Loki himself being there front and center. And yeah, while he does bring a certain emotion to this film, to this moment, it has to be the younger character that takes the spotlight. The kid who man, his acting chops, whew, but his physical acting, damn. And it's, giving it to Hiddleston himself, right? A man who is like put in his life to this work, but seeing how that magic can come from small beginnings is the inspiration from all this. And more than that, it's just an idea of how being with this group of members in your household who are they're not perfect by any means necessary, but their experiences, their moments, their teachings, they form who you are. They become your core, where you build your knowledge, where you build your universe, where you start expanding your possibilities. So it is with huge enthusiasm that I would highly recommend The Life of Chuck. I give it a 6 out of 7. I know I'm just being a little lenient. It probably hits that 7 out of 7 territory, but it's just such a beautiful note to end on that I don't want to hype it. This is what it is. It needs to be its own thing. And I love like stories where we're kind of getting to the end of our author's timeline. So you get to see them start to write stories that kind of have reflective measures. I'm thinking about The Fabelmans by Steven Spielberg, another film that just tells this story of history, let's call it. And I believe I can definitely see where Steven King comes from at this point. So, with much enthusiasm and respect, long live, Godspeed. But we're not done there. Oh God, because with the good comes the bad. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that's not it. It's all bad. Because if life in 2025 wasn't difficult enough, imagine trying to sustain 2 lifestyles. And that, I believe, is what the core of our new film, Materialist, is. Now, normally, I'm not saying I don't, but usually do the chick flicks. Nothing wrong with it. I grew up in a household with 2 of them. 13 going on 30 with the Incredible Hulk. That's some good shit right there. But when you put in, what's her face? Scarlett Dakota Johnson, the lady from Madam Web. Then you got Captain America, Chris Evans. And then you got Mr. fucking in 1,000 Faces, fantastical, whimsical man, Pedro Pascal himself as the lead roles. Then I'm curious, a little curious, man. I'm trying to get into these little loops of cycles of whatever. But hey, again, curiosity. And as they say, the curiosity kills the cat. But in this case, we got a story. We got an interesting take. And I really like seeing these perspectives because it really, you walk in and you're like, all right, whatever I know about life, I'm just gonna leave that at the door. I'm gonna let these kids have their fun, and we're just gonna learn a thing or two. And yes, it is interesting. The world of New York, a world that is expensive, not very unlike a California, but also very, let's call it idealistic, image propelled, let's say. And we see a glimpse of to that universe, right? We got this guy right here who's trying to find a wife, quote unquote, girlfriend into wife, but he says he doesn't want anybody that's in their late 30s, but he also wants them to be above 23. So we're dealing with that type of universe, and Dakota Johnson is not feeling the universe that like love is a thing and all that, which again, her profession is hooking rich people to rich clients. So we got female ladies who are pretty much past their are close to their expiration dates, let's call it. Japanese wedding people, or Japanese Christmas cake people will know what I'm talking about. And they're looking for someone that will financially stabilize them in New York. So that is the premise of this film. But as Pedro Pascal shows up into her universe, they're holding some weird conference event, blah blah blah. It's a wedding, I think actually. And he's like, "Yo, man, I'm the guy with the money, and we're eating sushi like 3 times a week. Wow!" And it works for what it is, right? It does the thing until Chris Evans shows up, and I understand Chris Evans' kind of character was like this this expressive romantic type, let's call it, because he wants to be an actor, but in New York, acting is Broadway, stage plays, right? That's an even more interesting universe than, say, people throwing themselves in an LA Sun or something like that. However, I don't really understand what happened with Pedro Pascal. So he started off pretty chill. She put out her kind of like misconceptions, and he's like, "Yo, man, I am the guy who's like super like into mines, so I'd like to learn about you." So I'm not sure if he dropped the ball. I really don't know. I might have faded in and out once or twice, but it is interesting to see how even in the world of 2025, we have the story of the materialistic universe that wants to still find true love. And true love comes in the form of Chris Evans' blue eyes and half Captain America body, because he's not doing the steroids right now. So that's something to think about, right? Again, I'm just curious to see how people think about it. I would be interested into hearing the female opinion of, hey, this is Pedro Pascal. He has all the money in the world, and he probably had like real interest in her. Again, I don't know if he dropped the ball or not. You're gonna have to watch the movie to find out. But what happened? And what made Chris Evans the guy, right? And am I wrong in thinking that this is a cheap copy of Americana? That's a book. Go check it out. But those questions linger. I may or may not have the energy to walk back into a matinee towards the end side of it and just be like, oh, so that's how it ends, or that's what happened. But I have to hold on to that one. I'm very curious as to what went wrong with Pedro Pascal as well. So if any of y'all know, please, no spoilers, but let me know because I'm curious too. So with all that being said, we didn't have a third one to go. Honestly, I was gonna try to do How to Train Your Dragon, but A, I ran out of time, B, I had things to do, and C, I don't know, man. I don't know. So if we do that later on, maybe we'll get some group up later to go. So look forward to that and all that more, and look forward to more awesome, cool stuff. I know the homie Sunset is out there unboxing Don Don Don. So if you like Don Don Don, go check out Don Don Don. And we will be back in the week. This week is going to be another busy week, at least for my end. I might be gone on over the weekend again. There is a fun stuff happening in San Francisco. Your boy's got a one-way ticket, or your boy's got a round trip in the Weemobile, so that's gonna be a good time. And yeah, just looking forward to that. I'm gonna go hit the gym because it's been a minute, and I need to do that. Like I should do that. You should too. So stay clean, stay healthy, stay fun, and I'll see you guys around next time. Ja. Matane.